today we have been given a task. There is a construction company that is working out in California, out on the West Coast, where they have lots of earthquakes. And they gave me a phone call and they said, do you have any junior geotechnical engineers available? And I said, well, absolutely. I've got 24 geotechnical engineers right here today. And they said, oh, we're really having a tough time. We want to build a skyscraper and we want the public to be safe in case the ground shakes. And we don't want the building to topple over. So we've picked out 2 different sites, and we don't know if we should just do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or if we should do some further tests to find out. So that's where you come in. They thought you might be able to help. So we talked about yesterday, what do geotechnical engineers have to know a whole lot about? Make your brain think, Ravion. What do they have to know a whole lot about?
The layers of the earth.
I knew your brain was exercised. The layers of the earth. Now here's a quick little model of the earth. And if you kind of think of an apple that's been sliced open, they're going to take this red peel, which is really the crust of the earth, and it's going to be blown up really big right here for you to see, okay? So just if you're thinking about an apple as a model of the earth, this skinny little part, it looks skinny on paper, that would be like the red peel of the apple. We call the part of the earth that we run around on, drive around on, the crust of the earth. In this model, does it look thin or thick? Thin. It looks pretty thin, but in reality, guess what? It can be miles and miles deep, all right? So we're going to take a peek just at the crust of the earth, because that's what geotechnical engineers are the most concerned about, okay? All right, so we're focusing and concentrating just on what part today? Crust. The crust. All right. Now, some places in the earth, if you keep on digging, you're going to get down to a clay layer, which is like a thick, compacted mud. And then some places in our earth, in the crust, you might hit bedrock, which is like really thick, thick rock that you'd have to drill through, okay? Now today when we model bedrock, I couldn't bring big, huge boulders in here. So if you come across this material, it's going to be a model for bedrock. Bedrock. Fabulous. Now, this is where I'm going to demonstrate the earthquake test for our construction company in California that has asked us to help them pick a site to build their structure. This is what I'm using to model the core sample. So all you do, and I can see on the top surface it's soil, so I know that much. So I'm going to push all the way till I know I'm at the bottom, and I'm going to give it a nice good twist, and I'm going to bring it back up. How many layers do I have?
2.
As an engineer, I don't want to forget my core sample, because if I'm going around during the day taking a bunch of them, I want to record that information. So right here is my core sample. So I've got a layer of sand, and I have a little bit thicker layer of soil. My sand is a little bit lighter, and my soil is a little bit darker. Now, let's predict how you think my structure is going to hold up during an earthquake. All right? So here's how we do the earthquake test. We're just going to shake it back and forth. 1, 2, 3. Whoa! I bet the people in that building are completely unsafe, don't you think? Okay. So oftentimes, geotechnical engineers will anchor buildings, tall structures, with something called piers. Now, this is a model, and it's just a little wooden stick. What do you think a real pier foundation would be made out of? Taylor, what strong material do you think would be used to go down into the layers? Something made out of Rock, maybe?
Metal.
Metal. Is that a strong material? Yes. Definitely. Big metal piers. So now that we know my layers, we're going to do a couple of more tests. You're going to poke your piers down into the sides of the structure, and we're going to push those piers down just to the bottom of the first layer, and I'm going to mark with my marker, and you all will work together to hold these for each other and make your marks. Okay, and now I've made those little marks with my marker on my piers, and now I'm going to go down to the bottom of my next layer, which is the sand. And I'm going to make new marks. And now we're ready to see. Do your marks. And let's see if that's a little more stable. 1, 2. What do you think? It's not all, you're right. It's, look, not all the way. Now, I still don't want to be in that building, but who can tell me what they saw from that quick little demonstration? Alice?
In the soil, it just like fell straight over, and that one it shook and then fell over, but not like all the way over.
Okay. So I have a journal for you. These are your geotechnical engineering tarpal journals. And the very first thing that you're going to come to is exactly what I just modeled. You're going to get a core sample, because you have to know what layers you're working with before you can tell this construction company what site's the best, site 1 or 2. All right? So I've got trays ready for you in the back here. Wait a minute, I've got them labeled for certain teams. Team 1, Team 2, Trent, Team 3. All right, you've got all your materials. Go ahead and start your core sample and your diagram.
Keep on doing it. No, that's good. We got 1, 2, 3. We got foam. We got foam.
Don't put it down back in there.
That's the bedrock.
Oh, what do we have going on here?
We got a little bit of soil, but some sand. Look at this side.
I know.
And we got some clay.
Clay. Maybe we should focus on this side because it shows the layers better. What do you think? All right. Now, what's this represent?
Bedrock.
Bedrock. All right. You've got 5 minutes to finish your diagram, and I'm seeing some emptiness in your predict. You've got to think about when you put those piers on your skyscraper, what layer are you going to go down to so that it will be stable during an earthquake? 5 minutes. And here's an example of site 1. Take it away.
I think that we should push the building all the way down to the bedrock because that was the hardest to push the core sample into.
Ah. When she said we're going to push that building all the way down, does the building itself go all the way deep? What part of the structure goes down into the bedrock? Trent? The piers. I just want to make that clear. You're not a construction worker would not start building way down deep. It's the piers that will anchor that structure that go deep down. Okay. So anybody else that had site 1, double thumbs up if you agree with Kristen. You'd go down to the bedrock. Okay. Way to go. We're now going to do model site testing, where we anchor those piers down into different layers at our site. Now, I only had 2 layers when I did my core sample, right? The very top layer was soil, and you saw me do the test, and what happened? Unstable. And then I pushed those piers down into the next layer of sand, And you know what? It was better, but I still had to call it unstable because it was almost on its side. So what you're going to do next is I'm going to give you the model for the skyscraper, which is the wooden block. I'm going to give you the wooden skewers, which act as the piers, which Min said earlier are usually made out of strong metal. 1, 2, 3, and then you have to decide, was it stable or unstable? Go to the sand layer if you had that. How many of you had another layer under the sand? What was it, Jacob?
Clay.
It was the clay. So you're going to push those piers down into the clay layer. Mark what happened. And then finally, did anybody have a fourth layer? Abby, what'd you have?
Bedrock.
Bedrock. And then you're going to test it. So you're actually doing how many different tests for Site 1? Site 1 people, how many tests are you going to do? 4. Site 2, how many tests are you actually going to do? 3. All right.
1, 2, 3. That's unstable. Unstable. Now we go to the second.
Unstable for soil. Now we need to go to sand.
Okay, that's good. That's it. That's sand.
Here we go. Earthquake test. Right.
Unstable.
It's good. It's good. Earthquake test. Now.
Underground.
Stable.
It's stable. Yeah. Okay. No, wait. No. Okay.
That's so unstable.
That was bad. Here, Megan, you already put it down.
Shake it.
Shake it.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, it's
stable.
stable.
I didn't shake it enough. Try it again.
Okay, it's not. That was on 2. Unstable. Wait, it's not. Wait, you gotta. Okay, there.
That is 1, 2, 3.
Okay. It's stable.
No, it's still not stable.
No, you did it more than 3 times.
Yeah, so see, it's not stable. It's still outside.
So she did it 1, 2, 3. Stable. See, it's stable.
Still
stable.
Oh, stable.
So that was
because the deeper the layer,
the stronger it gets.
So let's find out. People that tested site number 2, when you went down into the soil layer, what was your result? Teams 2, 4, and 6 tested this site. What happened, Jacob? It was unstable. And then how about when you went down into the clay? What result did you find? Bella?
it was stable.
All right. Did it move at all?
Just a little bit.
Okay. So if you were a geotechnical engineer recommending a site, what layer would you go down into? Clay. Why do you think going down into that clay made a difference in its stability? Lexi?
It gets thicker.
Thicker?
So it can hold stuff better.
That layer was thicker and
Stronger.
maybe stronger. All right. And then some of you at Site 1 had a 4th layer called bedrock. Bryce, talk to me.
Bedrock, that was really sturdy because it was like really deep and it was solid rock.
Wow.
It was very strong.
All right. Now, even if you did not have Site 1, who would feel confident being in a building that was anchored into bedrock? I'm giving it a double. All right, so let's do a final recommendation. Vote for site number 2. Site number 1. I now deem you not geotechnical engineering juniors, but now you're senior level geotechnical. Yes. All right. You have done a full day basically today of really digging into, no pun intended, digging into what a geotechnical engineer really does in his or her job. All right? They make very important decisions, right, on where to place not just skyscrapers, but where do we build Tully Elementary? Where do we build the Yum Center so our Cardinals can play basketball? We've got to have a safe place. It can't flood. It can't fall over in an earthquake. So these were some things that I think were good for you to understand, because now, the rest of the week, we've got to help Suman and Kadar convince Buwa where to build that tarpal. We do. Lesson 2, what I really like is it really explores what does a geotechnical engineer do. If you skip that, then they kind of lose their purpose. So knowing, I think that they even feel like they've become geotechnical engineers, because I start out by calling them junior geotechnical engineers, and poof, once they've got all this knowledge based on their earthquake test and knowing about all of a sudden they know all the layers of the earth. They know that depending on where you go in the world, you might not have soil on top. You might have just sand. They learn that the thickness, you could have thickness of soil followed by a thinner layer of sand. So they get all this knowledge on that one lesson, and they use that to apply to the challenge that follows in lesson 3 and 4. A tip that I used for lesson 2, because I'm teaching this unit to 6 different 3rd grade classes, it is a little logistically difficult to keep building all of those models, I'll admit that. So what I've done is, when they take that core sample, I make sure that they take it in the corner, and I give them a bright red or orange pom-pom, and I have them drop that in that spot so that I can reuse it again. So the next class, they pick the other corner and they drop. So then the next class comes in, I said, don't take your core sample from wherever that bright orange or red pom-pom is. Some other geotechnical engineer has already sampled that spot.